Hey guys, Mark Ferrasci, Protect Dog Training. It's starting to get a little cold out there. We got winter coming, obviously, and the weather's starting to change, getting towards Thanksgiving and Christmas and all that kind of season. And I'm one of those guys kind of get a bah humbug from some of my past that I've been through, and life hasn't always been the nicest for me when it comes to that time of year. People have a tendency to start doing substance abuse and all kinds of things, a lot more trials and tribulations for me when I was a kid dealing with what I went through. So not the happiest times of year. I usually kind of go bah humbug and kind of try to avoid it and just get my head pointed to the first of the year, because the first of the year is always the time that I always, as I grew up, felt the best, because that was the time that I could set goals and set things that I wanted to accomplish, and then look back at the past of the year to say to myself, you know, this is where I've been, this is where I'm going. And as I get a little older, that doesn't seem as important to me as much as it used to be when I was a kid. You know, I always wanted to try to strive for achievement, you know. And I think that most young people are like that if they have anything going for them, and they're not going through trials and tribulations that put them below that bar. But most of us, we always try to achieve something. But this year, a little different with all this COVID and what's going on with Trump. But I mean, it's been a rough year for a lot of people. And if you're one of those people out there struggling, I feel for you. You know, it's not always easy, that's for sure. So I'm on my way to John Anthony's place with Redemption Road Canine, and John is doing pretty good with his business. I've talked about him before. I'm working with him pretty much a couple times a week. I can't hang with him all the time because he's about an hour away from me, and then he stretches the opposite direction towards the city and goes and hangs with his boys. So it's tough for me. I'd love to be able to hang out with him a lot more often and really kind of get involved with what he's putting together. As far as he was doing the PSA pretty heavy, and he's still got that club going, but they went ahead and they put together one of his other partners leaning towards APPDA, which is Association of Personal Protection Dogs Association or something like that. A little bit more police oriented, a little bit more personal protection street type training, where the dogs have to be pretty strong. And he's hanging with people that's their MO anyway. You know, that's down in the inner cities and stuff. Some of these guys have been doing this training for 20 years, and they have a whole different way of working. They're a little bit, say, rough on their animals as far as how they're building them, but they end up turning out a dog that's a lot tougher because of that, you know. It's interesting, so I want to kind of check it out. My internet was down for a while. That's kind of why I dropped out of my videos so much, guys. But now I've got that back up the house, and now I'm flying pretty good with that. So you'll see some of my videos coming back pretty regular, I hope. For those of you that follow me on Facebook, you saw that I posted some posts of me working in
half a mile, turn left onto 87th Street East. That
I posted in regards to a gig that I got going out and doing music video with Buddy yesterday. So that was his first time on set. It's the first time he's been around that many people, and Buddy's got some little weird bugs that he's got that he
take the next left onto 87th Street East.
There's a very high suspicious level, you know. And if you've heard or study any about dog psychology and things, you know that we have something that's called fight, flight, or submission. And it's a natural reaction for all animals on God's green earth, really. Somebody comes out and says, boo, and scares the hell out of you, or just really puts the fear of God in you with a startle type like that. You're going to react in a certain way. You're either going to go, oh my God, or you might put out a fist and go to punch somebody if they do that to you. Or you might just totally flight altogether, depending on the trauma that's coming at you. You know, if you've got a situation that's really traumatic and somebody's coming at you heavy, you're going to have a response, and it's going to be a biological response. It's going to be instant. You're not really going to have too much ability to avoid what your body is going to throw you. Training will make up for that. You know, that's why law enforcement goes through the training that they do. They end up going through a lot of training, and that allows your brain to kind of click in, and you will override that natural response, right? So that's the same thing with Buddy. He has a very high suspicion, and he has a tendency to flight before he responds and his brain clicks in. Just who he is. With that edge, though, he has also a tendency to, when you put pressure on him, he flips into fight. So we're going to be working with him pretty heavy and trying to toggle that and flip him into that decision and condition a different response for him so that he ends up going into fight versus the flight. And the dogs like this that are have a tendency to be this way, that are more prone to different type of reactions, I find that they work very well with this what they call sharp shy. He's more of a sharp dog, right? And they have a tendency to be going into defense and a lot more tendency to be aggressive and respond in aggressive nature. That being the case, they actually are a better personal protection dog because they have a higher suspicion level. And when you put the training on them, that natural biological tendency is going to be more towards the fight side and respond. They're more on the edge, that razor edge that you would kind of imagine a razor edge, which way they're going to flip, right? And so they're a little bit more of a liability, but they actually make more of a better personal protection dog in a lot of ways. It's not something I really want to see. You want stability. You want to see a dog that's more stable and more secure with himself. But at the same time, you can use this type of a dog. And so I don't shy away from it. I've had several of them. In fact, some of the best dogs that I've had that are real have been sharp shy. I had one dog years ago named Thunder. It came from Caesar Milan. And I tell the story about Thunder and Lightning. And those names were given to them through Caesar. And he named the dogs, and he brought them to me because he didn't have a place to put them, but he got given them from a breeder, and she wanted him to go put the dogs down. And the reason was because the mother was epileptic, and she thought that would travel down the gene pool, and the puppies would have a tendency to be epileptic dogs. And she was probably right, I mean, by all rights. But Caesar just couldn't find it within to go put these dogs down. They were about 4.5, 5 months of age when she had asked him to do it. And he ended up bringing them over to me. And Lightning was very sharp and to the point where he was dangerous. And it was, I ended up keeping him for a month or so and then realized I couldn't get through the problem. It was genetics. And I had a neighbor that had a condo right next to me, and they would go walking up their stairway, and it was a low brick wall. And so he had access to be able to possibly tag them. And they would come home, and every time he would hit that fence and scare the shit out of them, excuse my language. So that being the case, it became too much of a liability to me, and I took him back to Caesar, and I said, you're going to have to take this dog back because it's just not working out. And I kept Thunder. Thunder was basically adopted me from day one, jumped on my bed, and his whole body language and everything told me he was mine, right? And I was his. Thunder was a hell of a dog. He was with me for 14 years before he finally got to a point where he was incontinent, couldn't hold his bowels. I had to keep carrying him outside to go to the bathroom and wobble, weebles wobble, and they fall down, that kind of thing. And it ended up getting to the point where you have to make that tough decision that it's time to go take the dog to have him put down. And it was a tough one. It hurt. I think I've always related to that when I hear the stories of people losing their animals, because every time they tell me they've lost a dog, I always get that tightness in my chest, and I really feel a lot of pain and anguish because it brings back that memory of me having to take him down and get him put down. And that's not the only dog that I've had that's gotten older, but it was very traumatic for me, and I always really have a lot of feeling and heart that goes out to people when they post that on Facebook or post their loss of an animal. And it's it hurts, and a lot of times I feel like it almost hurts more than it does if you lose a loved one, its family member. Something about a dog, it's amazing the love that we have for our animals, and so it hurts. So that's a long-winded story, I guess, about what's going on in my head right now. So working with John, he's got that new club going on, so I'm going to be talking to him about that. And then we went out and did the music videos, so I've got a lot of set type of things. I want to start probably trying to work Buddy towards doing a better job on set and getting him trained to do a lot of the basics things that they need to be trained. One of those things is called spot or place. I call it place because of that, where you send him to a place, right? A placemat. And that's how they teach the dog to go to a place on set, right? They'll show the dog where it's at, they'll get him to do it a couple times, and then they'll do it for the scene, whatever the scene may be, right? And then you'll have all kinds of requests that come to you from directors and producers and people that are on the movie screen in regards to your animals. And the reason for that is because they a lot of times don't have a concept. They have a script, they have a storyline, they want to be able to paint this picture, and they want to put an animal in the scene, right? And to get the animal to do that, a lot of times it's tough. You've seen a lot of the good ones, like you see that one movie with a Malinois that just came out with, the heck was his name, that did that one really adventure flick. New brain blanks, guys, as I get older. I'm sitting here driving, so I can't memorize it all, but it was really a hell of a good movie with the two Malinois doing the adventure type stuff with the Wick movie with, what's her name that was in it? You guys will be able to tell me. Go ahead and post it. So, you know, it's really cool when you see that kind of work that's being put in an animal to fulfill the need. It really boils down to, the gentleman I was out with, and he has the company that does the movie stuff, and I get a call every now and then. I'm basically a subcontractor, right? They're looking for a certain dog to fill the need for putting into the script. And this time we had a request for a Dutch Shepherd, and I just happened to have a nice dark brindle with Buddy, and what I'm producing a lot of times they're nice and dark. So that on the set they had a horse that was riding with the girl across the dry lake bed, and they're going to weave in that music video into that. I didn't have to worry about sound, which is good. A lot of times on set you got to be real conscientious and aware of sound. You can't be sitting there yakking. You got to keep your mouth shut. But if you heard me when I did that one post when I was getting Buddy to run across the thing, I'm yelling and screaming at him. I didn't have to worry about sound because you know that the music is going to be threaded into that video, right? Or the video is going to be threaded into the music. However, they're going to make it work. But they'll produce a pretty good product, I'm sure. So I didn't have to worry about sound. So that allowed me to give a lot more vocalization to Buddy and get a lot more stimulation going and to get him to run fast across the desert and go hit the sleeve. We were using the sleeve as an attractant, right? He was running into that location. So the camera's sitting right there. That's pretty easy to do when you've got a dog that's like Buddy, that's a working dog. It wasn't really anything fancy. You know, and you get some of these dogs like, dang, I wish I could do some memory that pop into my head, all these little videos, movies and sitcoms and things that come at me that I can think of. But there's a bunch of things that dogs will do and that are required to do to be able to get them to be set aware, right? Where they're able to be controlled on the set to a degree that they can use them in a sitcom or a movie of some sort, right? Beethoven or whatever it may be. The dog's got to do a lot of little small little nuanced things that they need to do. So I'm going to start working on those. And as I go along, I'll probably pass those on to you. They're not too hard to teach. They're easy. They're just little tricks that you use. And we use a lot of different things to manipulate the dog to get them to be doing their job. So that's what we're going to be doing with Buddy. Tonight, I'm going to be going over some of this with John. I might ask him to help me out. It may not just be bite work tonight. So we'll find out. We'll go over it a little bit with John and get into the subject. And I think I'm going to take him up and introduce him to my other friend that owns that movie company that's been doing this for 30, 40 years. One of the things about the animals in the industry nowadays, we're being pushed out. We're being pushed out by things like computerization. Sorry about that. I had a car that was passing the other lane. It was in my lane. I was looking for a head-on collision. Don't want that to happen. So, we're being pushed out by the technology in regards to blue screen and all that stuff. They can take an animal like the shots they got yesterday with Buddy running across the desert like that in such a sprint. I wouldn't doubt They might use them for the music video, but I bet you anything that the people that are good at their post-production, meaning getting it on the screen and using computerization, will take that, and they can take the same stuff that they just filmed yesterday with me and put it on the computer, and they can get that thing to do all kinds of stuff. So, and I don't have any rights to it. I signed my rights away when I did the gig yesterday, right? So they'll take that very possibly, and somebody that's got the technological abilities can put that into the computer and do all kinds of fancy stuff with it. It's amazing what they can do. So they're pushing us out of the industry. This gentleman I was with yesterday has been doing this for 30, 40 years. He's done all kinds of things with all kinds of different animals. He's had rats, and they used to do all kinds of stuff in different movies and different sitcoms and stuff, different television stuff that they'll have. They need rats as an example. And they just want the rat to be able to run across the screen to kind of set the story and the ambiance of what's going on, environmentally. Right? Because they've got to fill that stuff with the story and get it to have feeling and get it to have flow, right? Sometimes this stuff is only 10 seconds long, but your brain picks up on it and it allows you to have continuity when you're watching a show. It's amazing what they do. So it's an interesting thing, and he was showing me a bunch of pictures of some of the animals he's worked with over the years, cougars and lions and all kinds of stuff that he's worked with over the years that they've done little pieces in shows, And it's an amazing thing, but we are basically getting pushed out. The industry in that regards is getting a lot less for him. He's not getting the same amount of volume that he used to get because they'll go into the computerization, and so the industry's getting tough in that regards. But it is interesting. It's just a little bit. I might get 2-3 calls a year to be doing gigs like this. It won't keep me busy every day of the week, and I'm not sure what his business is like. I'd like to talk to him about it now more, but it's an interesting subject for me because I am so close to Hollywood that I can get some of this work now and then, right? So it's pretty cool. All right, I'll start yakking, stop yakking. I've been yakking long enough. What do we got? 17 minutes. Oh my God, I'm past my 6 or 8 minutes that I try to achieve when I'm doing my normal yak session. I get driving and my brain goes off. But so we'll be doing more of the subject of movie dogs and that kind of thing as I pick up on it. I started doing my R&D and my learning and growth towards the industry. I'll be bringing it into my videos and we'll talk about it a little bit. It'll be an interesting subject. If you guys haven't seen, Monkey is the dog's name. Monkey is a Malinois owned by a gentleman that's one of the best trainers in the industry. He's amazing what he does. He used to have a dog by the name of Jumpy. Type it in on type it in on YouTube and find Monkey and watch some of the things he does with his animals. It's amazing. So I'd like to get to meet him someday and talk a little bit about dog training and what they do on set and that sort of thing. He gets a lot more movie type gigs because his dog is so well trained. He can pretty much do anything. When you have that versatility, because you've got your dog being able to do all kinds of things, you're going to get more calls. My dogs are pretty much trained for bite work and a high level of obedience and control, but they don't have that set training that you need to be able to get the dog to work on set. And that's a whole another thing, right? So, all right, I'll let you guys go. Mark Ferrasci, ProTech Dog Training. Yakking at the screen once again. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.